Welcome back, guys. Apologies that I did not get an episode up at the end of last week, but I was a bit too busy and too stressed, and I pulled the ripcord and I've saved it all for today. I've got a big episode for you that begins at the back of the car. I've come up with at least some sort of solution for where Ferrari built and put an awful, ugly, hideous chassis. They did us dirty, but we're going to cover up some of those chassis junctions in the back, and it should look a bit better when someone decides to look down and into the back of the 308. My buddy Dan came over at the end of last week and gave me a bunch of aluminum welding pointers and did some welding of his own. So we've made progress on the heat exchanger, the radiator, and the intercooler, and are getting dangerously close to having all of the plumbing and piping finished up at the back of the car. And I've decided to tackle the pedal box, one of the biggest problems still remaining on this car. But I've got some solutions in hand and I feel pretty good about it. It worked out to be a lot more simple than I initially anticipated. I'm excited to explain it all to you guys and a few more projects in and between. So let's dive into it, and don't forget, subscribe if you haven't. You don't want to miss it as we get this build even closer to completion. Let's go. I spent a decent bit of time in the last episode complaining about the ugly chassis that Ferrari has unfortunately cursed us with. So the goal today is to use some cardboard template paper and try to cover up the worst part of the chassis junctions at the back of the car. The challenge is that nothing back here is really level. It's a bunch of different layers and pieces all either welded or riveted together. But eventually I penned something that should be simple to build and only requires 2 bends in 2 planes. The roughed out template looks something like this, and it might appear to be a patchwork quilt of tape and paper, but there's a method to the madness here. Using a pair of scissors, I can cut only one small segment of this and unfold it into a flat sheet, which is how we can actually build this from a piece of sheet metal. By folding it back in just 2 places, as you can see here, we can make this shape very simply. I went back and forth a lot about what material to actually build this stuff out of, such as aluminum and maybe riveting it into place to keep this lightweight, or what I eventually landed on being 16 gauge steel. I decided on steel because I'd be able to weld it into place and keep it a bit more factory looking as opposed to some tacked in add-on, and I figured the handful of ounces that I'd gain using this material were worth the cost. Bending this thing up would have been a lot easier with a finger brake with removable fingers, but instead I had to use the gap at the end of my straight brake in order to pull this off. But it worked, and the panel lined up beautifully. With respect to welding, the whole goal was to minimize the amount that I needed to do. My crafty folding meant that I only had about 3 inches of weld per part. After that comes massaging the parts into place. Paper never really transfers perfectly over to steel, so there's a lot of trimming involved on the edges to get this thing to fit perfectly. Last before installation is some cleanup of the chassis itself. There's a lot of seam sealer and adhesive that's holding these panels together, and I want to make sure that all of it's out of the way for a nice and tidy fitment. Here you can see the finished parts on the workbench, and here they are installed in the car. Now, admittedly, there's still a lot of cleanup to do, but I think once these things are welded into place, it's going to look a lot better. And once there's paint thrown over top all of this stuff back here, I think it'll look pretty factory. It's been a few episodes since we talked about the water-to-air intercooler going in the back of the car. I showed you guys my mocked-up end tanks, but then touched upon the fact that I'd rather have somebody who really knows what they're doing weld this thing together, because it is going to be front and center in the engine bay. If you recall, I even tried tacking it together on my own, but being an amateur aluminum welder, it did not go according to plan, and I actually ruined a couple of the pieces. I've done a lot of practicing and learning since this point, but nevertheless, I'm still not ready to weld this thing entirely on my own. Thankfully, my buddy Dan came over at the end of last week and was willing to do a serious amount of welding for me. Dan is quite the accomplished welder himself, and he made quick work of all of the aluminum that I threw his way. He put one of the intakes for the water-to-air intercooler together, and the outcome was absolutely beautiful. I'm excited to see this thing mounted in the back of the car, and I'm hopeful I can sweet talk him into coming back to the shop to weld up the other side of it. At the front of the car, I decided to start tackling the radiator and heat exchanger changes. If you recall from the last plumbing episode, I showcased the fact that we need to change the ports on the radiator itself. And what we're going to do is install these weld-on AN bungs, size -20, which require a 1.5-inch hole to use properly. On this side of the radiator, we're simply relocating the -20 fitting that already exists. On the other side of the radiator, we're going to be changing a -16 fitting in place to a -20 for better flow. If you're keen, you've probably noticed that several of the fins on our radiator have gotten a bit banged up, simply due to the fact that this radiator has been moved around the shop countless times over the last 6 months, and it's unfortunate. We're going to try in a future episode to straighten those fins out, but worst case scenario, we'll use this radiator until we're ready to actually hit the track and have all of our tuning out of the way. At that point, we'll simply keep it as a backup. After using a hole saw without a pilot, I was able to put our fittings into place, and with Dan coaching me, I got to TIG welding the bungs to the radiator end tanks. Dan was a fantastic teacher and gave me a ton of tips that rapidly improved my aluminum TIG welding skills. I'm far from great at this point, but I'm definitely getting better, and I can't thank him enough for all of the help over the weekend. The last job on the radiator was to cap off the hole left behind from the -20 fitting that we removed. Once that was done, this thing should be ready to roll. You can see my slightly improved aluminum TIG welds here, and I'm happy with the outcome. Next on the list is the heat exchanger, and some of you guys may remember the fact that this did have a shroud and fans attached to it. After Dan spent some time removing that shroud and fan setup by cutting it all off, we're left with a heat exchanger that should flow a lot better. As part of adapting it to work with our new plumbing setup, I'm moving one of the -16 ports from the face to the bottom of it. This will allow for much better routing of our plumbing at the front of the car. Last but not least, I used a -16 ORB plug to close off the empty remaining port. Now, on the note of the radiator and those coolant lines we talked about in the last episode and how they will suck to bleed, a ton of you guys said in the comments that I need to vacuum bleed the system. Well, I didn't talk about it in the last episode, but good news, I've had this guy for a hot minute. We will definitely be putting it to use. Let me show you how it works. What we have here is a vacuum coolant bleeder, and it uses your shop air compressor and the Venturi effect to suck all of the air out of your cooling system. Following that, it uses the vacuum within the system to fill the system with water, leaving no air behind. It's an incredibly useful tool for bleeding picky cooling systems, and it's going to work perfectly on the 308. A couple of episodes ago, you may remember that I received a 288 GTO style front bumper for the 308, but unfortunately I got damaged in shipping. Well, thankfully the guy that I bought it from was willing to make some immediate repairs, and I've got it back in hand already. So, off camera, I spent a considerable amount of time trying to build some brackets for this thing, and here you can see me struggling to weld them. I tried my best to TIG weld what I could, but my eyesight isn't the best, and a lot of the welds were just too far away for me to accurately see what I was doing. So eventually I threw in the towel and grabbed the MIG welder to finalize everything into place. In retrospect, I probably should have done it a lot sooner. However, I've wanted to use TIG welding as much as I possibly can. As simple as the bumper is, I really do think that it transforms the front of the car and gives it a whole new level of completion at the front end. There's still a lot of work to do in terms of figuring out the driving lights that will be mounted in the bottom corners and what I'm going to do for a front grille, but overall I'm really happy with how this bumper looks in comparison to the factory 308 bumper that's pretty ugly. Now it's time to revisit the factory pedal box. I mentioned in a previous episode that it's probably one of the biggest projects that we've yet to begin. In truth, I thought we might be able to avoid changing these parts out, but after a lot of consideration, there's just no way around it. So a lot of you guys are going to wonder, why do we actually need to replace all of this stuff here? Well, there's two reasons. The big one is that inside of this cast aluminum box is the factory pedal assembly, and the factory clutch is a cable-driven clutch, or a cable-operated clutch. Our clutch assembly paired with the Honda motor is a hydraulically actuated slave setup, and that means that what we have here in the Ferrari is just not going to work. There is a company that sells a conversion to use an external master cylinder and kind of a linkage setup, but I don't really want to fuss with all of that, considering the fact that we're not going to have an easy way to provide vacuum to the brake booster without kind of jumping through a bunch of hoops. And in all, this entire setup is just antiquated. There's not a really good reason we shouldn't rip this out and convert to a modern manual brake setup, other than the fact that it's not the best for street driving. So let's get these parts out of the way. Here, we can actually get an idea of what we have to work with, at least from a spatial constraint standpoint. We've got a flat hole to work with, and pedals that straddled the steering column. If we look at the pedal assembly on the workbench, you can get a better idea of how it was constructed and how it actually works. There's a unique linkage inside that translates the motion of the pedal 90 degrees into the master cylinder. But we're going to replace this entire assembly with this Tilton pedal box that I had lying around the shop, thanks to my buddy Nick, who decided he didn't need it anymore. It gets mounted into the car something like this, with the pedals hanging and the master cylinders mounted behind them. We need to emulate this position when it's mounted in the car for this whole assembly to work, and it should look something like this. Now, this is the best that I can manage to support this thing in place without actually having a bracket for it, but it should give an idea of how we actually have to mount this thing and what some of our constraints are. We're going to have brake reservoirs protruding from these holes here, and I need to make sure that this whole assembly is far enough back for those reservoirs to clear the hood duct that's going to be curving up in front of them, and we'll probably remote mount the reservoirs on a bracket that's maybe kind of attached to here or in this area. The other thing that we need to do is, as mentioned, we've got to figure out how to enclose this because there's a huge hole that goes into the car. These other holes we can simply cap over. There's nothing that needs to go through them. But because this sits up this high, we need some sort of enclosure that will close in this entire thing while still allowing the reservoirs and the cylinders to protrude out and into what we will call the front trunk for now. So overall, we need to build some sort of box to contain this guy, mount it, and make it sturdy so we can be really jamming on these pedals because we're not going to have any power brakes. It's going to be pretty hard to push. Now, thankfully, Tilton provides CAD models for their products for guys like us who want to use them in custom projects, and this is a huge help as it would be a big challenge to actually draw this part on my own. Taking some of the design constraints into consideration from the last clip, I got to designing a pedal mount system that can hold this into place and also close it off from the outside. It took a couple of design revisions before landing on something that was actually buildable, usable, and not too hard to actually fabricate. My buddy Nick offered his engineering mind to the project, and I landed with this. It's a 16-gauge steel box made of a handful of pieces that will, for the most part, be welded together, and it should be more than sturdy enough to do the job of supporting the load of pressing the brakes and operating the clutch. Everywhere that we've got a bolted connection, we've got 2 layers of steel for added reinforcement, and all of the perimeter edges of this piece will be welded up nice and tidy with a TIG. All that's left, of course, is to add this to the ever-growing list of parts that I need to get water jetted or laser cut. But hopefully we can have these parts for next week. So that's all of the fabrication out of the way. All that's left really is to talk to you guys for a second. Let me know if you guys are enjoying these kind of like segments at the end. I don't want to just talk through the entire episode, and this seems to make sense, but I also don't know if you guys want to hear this shit either. So anyways, point is, I want to talk about some of your guys' suggestions in the comments, because When we were working on the hood, a bunch of you guys said, why don't you build the whole thing out of carbon and then it can all be one piece? Or why don't you do a CFD analysis of it so you know that it's perfect and you can refine and reshape it? Or maybe wind tunnel test it. Or here at the back of the car, some of you guys are saying, oh, build a whole carbon tub to go back here and you can cover up all that ugly chassis. I love those ideas. I think they are sick, don't get me wrong. But I don't have the budget for that. All that stuff costs serious money. And I know we're building a Ferrari and we're throwing money at it, but as much as I wish, I do not have an unlimited budget. Maybe a future project as the channel grows will allow us to go crazy like that, but we gotta keep things within the realm of reality here. And I can't take the time to learn to build a completely custom carbon hood and have it come out the way that I want to right now. And I can't afford to get somebody else to come in here and completely develop that and make molds and bucks and all that stuff. Gotta keep focused, gotta stay real about it. But that's it. I still love that you guys are thinking crazy and outside the box, so keep the suggestions coming. It's good, it's fun, and it's all stuff that we can keep in the piggy bank for a future build. And there you guys have it, one heck of a Tuesday episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, so make sure you leave me some feedback in the comments. Let me know what aspects you enjoyed so I can continue to make this series better and better with every episode. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed the new intro and some of the new graphics. I'm always striving to make this series as good as I can, and you guys are an integral part of that, so thank you as always for the support. I'm gonna try to get some parts water jetted this week. Maybe we'll have them by our next episode, or worst case, we'll have them for Tuesday, so we can get a lot of these half-finished projects actually completed. I've got a lot of irons in the fire. It's time to pull them out. They're red hot. Anyways, I'll catch you guys at the end of the week. Thank you as always for the support.